All right, so once you're in DTOHEL, go ahead and click on Content. You'll see a Start here. What are we going to see here? We're going to see a syllabus, just a class schedule. You'll see my office hours, and some other documents. Something called Taking Screenshots of Your Work, a lecture video form. I'll explain why you would want to do either one of those two things. I'm going to touch upon the concept of taking a screenshot of your work really briefly, which is that when you turn in homework, I want you to run the program before you submit it and just take a picture of it. Now, you don't have to like exhaustively test it and take 20 pictures of it. To just run it, and take a picture of what's on the screen. And then submit that as well as submitting your source code. That way I can check real easily, just to make sure that you got it up and running. Because it's possible to write a program that won't run, and then you won't be able to take a picture of it, right? It's kind of a strong clue. So we'll do that in here. I know that most of y'all know how to take screenshots, but I'll walk you through the process anyways. And I also know that there's 27 different ways of doing it. And if you already have a favorite way of doing it, then don't feel obliged to change on my account. Okay, so if we go and eyeball the class schedule, sometimes I've broken the class up into 2 units where you had a midterm and you had a final. Sometimes I've broken it up into 3 units. This time we're going to try the 3-unit approach. So we're going to have 2 exams and then we're going to have a final. Unit 1 exam, September 25, a couple months. Unit 2 exam, a little bit after that, about 5 weeks after that, and then a final exam, December 13th. We have an entire week off for Thanksgiving, which if you've been a student in the past, you may know that that's a somewhat new thing. It used to be that you only got a couple of days off on Thanksgiving. The price that people pay is that some people have to come back on the following week and take their finals. So the class has been campus schedule has been extended by 2 days to make up for the fact that you're getting Thanksgiving off. Won't affect us in this particular class because we're still having our in the same week that we would have before. The final is not a super duper exam that's supposed to be harder than the other ones, and it's not designed to be comprehensive. It's just Unit 3 effectively. Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. And yeah, they all build on each other's concepts, but it's not supposed to be, a canvassing of all the other exams. It's its own unit. It's not worth more than the other ones, just worth the same. All right, so I'm going to pop open the syllabus. When I click on the syllabus link, D2L provides this handy-dandy little preview page. Maybe. Okay, it took a while. The preview page stinks. Don't rely on it. You may be missing sections of it. It may not show images. It may not show tables or whatever. If you're looking at a PowerPoint and it shows a preview, it's even worse. So anytime you click on a link, go ahead and download the file just to view it on your own machine. And you can download it by clicking on the little pull-down arrow. Or if you scroll to the very bottom of the page, there's also a download link. And if you're looking at something that's only 3 or 4 lines long, obviously you don't have to download it just to review that again. But for something, that's got a lot of formatting in it, I strongly recommend you do that. So we're going to be learning C++. We're going to be learning both procedural and object-oriented logic for problem solving using I love the way this cuts the screen off. It hasn't been fixed yet. Alrighty. Using the C++ programming language. Utilizing several different development tools and, and techniques. We'll present the core concepts of writing computer programs using variables, decisions, loops, functions, classes, and object-oriented programming. So the first part of the class is going to be focused on procedural programming. Procedural programming is what you learned in Fundamentals 101 if you took fundamentals from us here, using the Python language. I know that some people took 1113 a while back when no language at all was used and all you did was, written work rather than writing programming. Anyways, there's a difference between procedural programming and object-oriented programming, which we are going to learn. We're going to do our programming in class in the Microsoft Visual Studio development environment. That doesn't mean that on your home computer you have to install Visual Studio. It's a big program. You can go and find another C++ compiler if you want. If you're using Linux, you probably already have the GCC compiler. Just use that if you want, or install another full-featured one. If you're on a Mac, Mac comes with Xcode, which is another C++ development environment. So just pick one and use it. The only time I've ever run in, well, there's been a couple of, are there any Mac users here? Do I need to talk about Macs? Okay, so, half the class. That's cool. Okay, so I'm going to have to concentrate on making sure that everything we do works as well in Xcode as it works in Visual Studio. I've only noticed one little quirk, which is we won't even talk about that. You're going to want to install Xcode if you do not already have it, and you do that just from the App Store. And then I'll make a video, or I've already got one made, showing you how to make your first project. Everybody else, I recommend you just go ahead and get Visual Studio rather than harking off on your own and finding one, because that way you're using what you're using in here. If you feel like bringing a laptop, please do. Totally okay to use a laptop rather than using one of these campus computers. It's even better. You've already got your work with you. On the other hand, if you don't want to, I understand that as well. So the course title, you know the course. You know where it is because you're here. Prereq, some people have skipped the prereqs, even though the enrollment system shouldn't let you, but that's okay. All right, my office is downstairs and it's not in the room that's listed here. I cannot believe that. It's still listing the wrong one. My mistake. I'm right downstairs near the end of the hallway, and I have office hours. The office hours are posted in D2L. So you can go to Content, look at Office Schedule, Jeff Thompson. You'll see that I'm here 4 times a week. Well, 4 days a week. More than 4 times a week. I'm not here on Fridays, but if you need to meet on Friday, make an appointment with me and we can hook up. Yeah, see, this looks completely different in the preview than it does if you open the document itself. And so several days a week I'm here around noon, but on Wednesdays I have a noon class, so my office hours are a little bit later. Anyways, we'll figure it out. Just set up an appointment with me or drop by. You know, if you're just walking by and you see me, feel free. There's my email address. All your instructors also have a Raider email address just like you. Feel free to use my Raider email address if you want to, but I'm not going to give it to you because all it does is forward email directly to this one. So, and if you want to contact me quickly, I strongly recommend using my phone number. Texting is even better. I strongly encourage you to text me. If you're stuck on a programming problem, you just take a picture of your screen. Can't figure out where the syntax error is, take a picture of your screen, text it to me. You know, I'm up until 3 a.m. every night. Don't worry about waking me up. I'll look at it and I'll probably get you an answer pretty quickly. I can help out. People have found that very useful in the past. To encourage you to do that, and also so that I get your phone number, I would ask y'all to go ahead and grab your phone, if you have one with you, and go ahead and send me a text right now at that number. Just put your name followed by C++, and I'll make a contact list. Why would I make the contact list? If, you know, we're going to be coming up on winter, we may have bad weather. At least we're out of tornado season, but, you know, we can have ice and heavy rains and stuff like that. And sure, if you're subscribed to the Blue Link notification service, you may get told, you'll get told when the campus is closing. But also, I can send you a message out. Make sure everybody knows, you know, no class tonight. Or say that I'm too sick to come to school. That rarely happens, but it could happen. I would send out a text as well as an email, as well as posting it on D2L, because I would not want anybody to show up, you know, and me not be here. So it's optional. You don't have to send me a text, but if you like the idea of me being able to send you messages like that, that's cool. And please text me whenever you get stuck on something. Don't spend 2 days working on something when you could ask me and get help in 5 minutes. And yeah, there is some utility in you banging your head on the computer for a little while to get it, you know, to try to solve it yourself, rather than just ask me every single time you run into a little stumbling block. But don't let getting stuck stop you. You know what I mean? We can get you back rolling again pretty easily if you get stuck, if you let me know. So you're going to need the textbook, starting out with C++ from control structures to objects, 9th edition. They change editions every few years. mostly so that they can charge you more money for it. If you want to, I don't care if you buy the 8th edition or whatever, it's not materially much different. You're going to need a computer capable of doing C++ development. There may be places online where you can type in C++ code and have it run a little bit, but really you want your own ability to do that. That said, if you can't get it going at home, there's also the Business Computer Lab over in room 206. All the computers there have all the same development tools that these workstations do. So if your laptop crashes and you're not going to be able to do work for a week while you're waiting for it to be repaired, hey, kind of like my Mac. My MacBook Pro died Sunday night, so I'm taking it to Apple to get it fixed. Anyways, just go in there and do it. That's better than just not doing work for a week. So course-related expected outcomes. You'll need to recognize and identify the basic vocabulary and concepts of C++. You may have also heard of the C programming language. C++ is an expansion of the C programming language. It's a gargantuan expansion of it. If you think of C as being a house, C++ is the Godzilla sitting on top of the house. But it's a really cool language. It's really powerful. And Java's syntax, and a great many other syntaxes, such as JavaScript and a whole bunch of language, C# and a whole bunch of other languages, they all borrow elements of the C++ syntax. So by learning this one, you're well on your way towards learning multiple computer programming languages. It is different than Python, though. Most of y'all have done Python programming. It's different. But same concepts. You have loops and variables and functions and stuff like that, but it is different. You're not going to have to worry about tabbing stuff exactly, Demonstrating a working knowledge of C++ by writing, compiling, debugging, and executing simple C++ language computer programs. This debugging term, I usually don't get to focus on that strongly enough, and I'm going to try to focus on it a little bit more this semester. Visual Studio comes with something known as it's an integrated development environment, IDE. It comes with a debugger. What's a debugger? You run the program, and you can make it stop at a certain point, a certain line number. And then you can step through it line by line, watching the variables change. And you can identify logic errors that way. So learning debugging, out when you're a professional, you're going to be doing a lot of debugging because the code you write is not going to be simple code like you do in a class like that. So we need to do a little bit more justice to the idea of running an interactive debugger. And then demonstrate a working knowledge of object-oriented design by developing business-oriented programs using the class data type. So we'll be learning how to write classes as well, which is object-oriented programming. So class computer usage, you do need to be able to get on the internet and hit d2l.rose.edu. Everybody has a phone nowadays. You can all check, your notices there. But you're going to want to be able to do your homework as well. You're going to need a computer capable of doing C++ work. You're going to need C++ development software. Mac users should use Xcode. You could install something else if you wanted to, but Xcode is a top-of-the-line Mac. It's what people use to develop iPhone applications and everything. Linux users could use NetBeans. You could use code blocks. You could use Eclipse. I'm expecting that if you're a Linux user, you're godlike enough to be able to find your own C++ compiler. I don't know much about it. Email. Every student has an email address. mail.rader.rose.edu, or just go to Gmail. You go to Gmail and you type in your email address. Your email address should be your first name dash last name at rader.rose.edu. If there is any conflict in names, somebody else of the exact same name has attended the class, and your email address may be a little bit different. Hopefully when you enrolled, you got a document saying what it was. I can also look up your email address. I certainly can't reset your password or anything, but I can at least tell you what it is if there's any question. These dates are completely wrong. I don't know why I have them in the document. Monitor your email. At the very least, get your rader.rose.edu email, configure Gmail to forward it to your personal email address if you don't want to check rader.rose. But Nowadays we all have phones and tablets and stuff, and you know, it's just as easy to add a new email address to your device so that you can be monitoring those as well. Because if I have an important notice, I will post a notice of it on D2L. I thought that that automatically generated an email to get to you, but it doesn't seem to, or it doesn't seem to be reliable, so I will also email you of important notices. So do check D2L, but also know that important stuff should be coming in on your phone. I'll never send you email, you know, class-oriented email that's supposed to be going out to multiple people that I didn't also post a notice of. That'd be kind of weird. So the grading scale, pretty traditional. 90%'s an A, 80%'s a B, 70%'s a C, and so on. Your grades are broken down as follows. Programming homework. This is the wrong version of the syllabus, and I apologize for that. Programming homework is 30% of your grade. In class is 30%. Quizzes and exams are 30%. There will be quizzes for each chapter, but they're not the kind of quiz where you have to come home, you come to class, take pencil and paper out or whatever and do it in class. Instead, it's do it on your own time. And the cool thing about the quizzes is that once you've taken it and it's been graded, you can take it a second time or a third time in order to raise your grade on it. You only get a 70% the first time you take it. That's not your final answer. Take it again and do better. Why do I allow that? I've had people ask me, and it's like, that's not much of a quiz, is it? Well, yeah, that's the point. It's a learning tool rather than a measurement tool. Exams are the measurement tool, right? You know, and writing programs, you know, that's a measurement tool. The quizzes are just supposed to be a learning tool. Do them until you get a good grade on it. So submitting homework. Like I said, and you do them at your own time, just like you're going to do your homework. They're all posted when they are under the quizzes link here in D2L, just like the assignments are posted under the assignments link. When you've written a program for homework, not for the in-class stuff, you don't have to do this for the in-class stuff, I want you to take a screenshot. And you'll upload that screenshot as well as the source code for the program you've written. When you create a C++ program, there'll be one or more .cpp files. .cpp standing for C++, and maybe some header files as well. You'll submit those as well, and we'll play with that a little bit today. We'll submit something. We'll take a screenshot just to make absolutely sure that when you walk out of here, you know how to do it. Unfortunately, that's not going to help you Mac users, but I have instructions for doing that as well in the screenshot document, and you probably already know how to do it. So give me both the screenshot and the CPP files. You don't have to send me an executable. If you want to, you could zip up the entire folder. When you create a new project in Visual Studio, let me go see if I can find an example. It creates a folder with a lot of subdirectories. If you want to, you can just go right-click on that folder and make a zip file. Send to compressed zip folder. If you want to give me the entire zip file, that's fine. Or if you just want to go and find the CPP file, that's also fine. So in here, this is a CPP file. One thing that I want everybody to do in here, and I recommend that you do it on your home computer, is kind of poke around a bit and see if you're seeing file name extensions. Extensions are really important because you won't know whether you're uploading the correct file or not. Let's change the settings so that we do see extensions for the file names. So I'm going to click on Organize, Folder and Search Options. Now this is back in Windows 7, isn't it? It's going to be slightly different in Windows 8 and it's going to be slightly different in Windows 10. But anyways, the screen, once you trigger it, looks remarkably similar. It's looked the same since like Windows 95. You click Folder and Search Options, and then there's three little tabs. You click View, and one of the check boxes is Hide Extensions. Well, we don't want to hide our extensions, but by default, Microsoft hides the extensions. Now, those extensions are useful information, like what's the difference between a .txt file and a .docx file versus a .cpp file. That's useful information. It's what Windows uses to put a type here, but it's also good just to see the extension. So unclick that Hide Extensions if it is already selected. Then apply it and OK it. When you submit an assignment, there's a comments field. Go ahead and use that. If your program is behaving oddly, if you don't think it's meeting all the requirements of the assignment, go ahead and put that in there rather than just, let me find that out on my own. Or if you have a little question and you want me to answer it when I grade it, go ahead and put a question there. Or if you think it's working great, just put fun assignment or whatever. If the program is late and you've talked to me about the reason why beforehand, remind me that you talked to me about it, right? You say, I told you that this was going to be late because, I had to go to, San Antonio for a wedding, whatever, If you tell me that you have to go to San Antonio for the wedding, but you don't put it in the comments field, it's likely that I'm going to forget, and then you might get the late deduction. So just put it in the comments field. But let me know in advance. Don't tell me after the fact, unless it's an emergency, right? If things happen. But usually you can let me know in advance that something's going to be late. You're having trouble with it. So grading policy. Programming assignments have to be able to run in order to get any credit. If they have syntax errors and won't run, you'll receive 1 point out of 100 on it. Now Python would sometimes let a program start running and then there'd be a syntax error in the middle. C's not like that. If there's a syntax error, it won't even compile and run at all. And maybe we'll get to open up and write a hello world type app before we leave today. We'll see. If you do not submit a screenshot along with your source code, you'll get partial credit at best. If you cannot get your program to meet the requirements, go ahead and submit it. Put in the comments field what's going wrong. I should give you partial credit for it. And if you only receive partial credit, then you get a chance to revise it and resubmit it for more credit. Or if you didn't know that there was anything wrong with it, but I find a problem with it, in the comments when I grade it, you'll wonder why you only got a 70% or 50%. Go ahead and review my feedback. I'll tell you what's wrong with it. No, the data has to be sorted. And then I'll say in my feedback, please revise and resubmit for more credit. So you're going to want to do that, right? You don't want to accept a 50 or a 70 or whatever, You're going to want to fix it. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get 100 on it the second time you submit it. But you'll probably make an A. So in general, programming assignments are due 1 week from the day they are assigned. Really, it's like if I assigned it on Tuesday, I want it done midnight of Monday, the following week, right? Or if I sign it on Thursday, I want it due Wednesday. Now, I'll give you a little bit of leeway on it. If you miss the due date by a day or so because you were stuck and you wanted to ask me questions that class period, there'll be a little bit of a grace period. But beyond that, there's going to be a deduction. So if you look at the grades, oh, I missed one. I was changing these and I forgot to update. The last 10% is going to be a project. The programming project is just to give you something a little bit more interesting to work on than the homework assignments. The homework assignments are usually based on what we did in class, and they're not going to be terribly long. You may be able to knock it out in a couple hours. Well, a project's supposed to be a little bit bigger than that, a little bit more interesting. But if you look at these things here, you might figure out that, well, if I come to class and do all the in-class work, I get 30%, and if I'm really good at taking quizzes and exams, I might get, a lot of points there. And then, okay, I do a couple of homework assignments, maybe 2, and that'll get me up to a 70%, and I'm going to stop working. No, you have to make 50% you have to do half of the programming assignments in order to pass the class. No matter what other score you've earned, you have to have 50%. It's in the syllabus, so we're just going to abide by that. You have to complete at least 50% of the programming assignments. No matter what your other grades are in the class, it's non-negotiable. This is a programming class. It's not a lecture and listen to me class or a lecture and type along with what I do. Now, if in the distant past, I had people who would come in. This is one person in particular. He made 100s on all the exams and on all the tests, and he never did any of the homework. And I didn't give credit for the in-class stuff at the time. So he managed to make a passing grade, but no, he didn't. He didn't get to pass because he didn't do any of the homework. All right, enough about that. Incomplete grades are not granted. You may be familiar with the idea of an incomplete, I'm going to stop attending class, 12 weeks into the class or whatever. The way that an incomplete works is that you would get an I on your report card, and then later it would turn into an F. Well, instead, you're just going to get the grade that you have earned. at that point. Like if you attend, 70% of the class and you have a total of a C at the end of the semester, even though you skipped the last 4 weeks, that's what's going to be recorded on your report card. But if you talk to your instructor, and this is not my policy, it's a division-wide policy, should be anyways. I think everybody's in agreement because the dean told us to do it this way. You talk to the professor, they'll give you an extra 4 weeks or something like that. You work it out so that you can complete the class. Then you do all the rest of the work, and that C will get raised up to an A or whatever, or that F will be raised to a C. So what happened is that people would take an I, and then they would sit there and they would think, okay, that I looks pretty good on my report card. I'm not going to do any more work on it, and eventually it would get changed to an F. Instead, if you see that F or that C on it, then you'll go ahead and do the work, at the end of class to bump it up to an A. Hopefully. Anyways, no incompletes are given. You can always withdraw up to a certain point. You know that, of course. Late assignment policy. I will accept stuff up to 7 days late with a 10% deduction. Now, like I said, I give a day or so grace period. If you come up and ask me questions, then, that's cool. But then it's 10% off each additional week. Like if it's more than 7 days late, it's 20%. If it's more than 2 weeks late, it's 30% off. If it's more than 3 weeks late, it's 40% off. However, you won't get any credit if it's more than 4 weeks late, right? You've had a month. Now, if you come and talk to me about what's going on and explaining why your homework is late, and there may be some leeway, but really getting a month behind is bad news. Why? Because you're learning this stuff so that you can learn this stuff, so that you can learn this stuff, so that you can learn this stuff. And if you're already a month behind at this point, you're not going to be able to learn the rest of it. In-class assignments, the lectures that we do here, if you miss a day, just go and watch the video at home, like over the weekend or something, but don't dally too much. If you wait a month, then you're not going to be able to get any credit for it. Now, the in-class homework doesn't follow that 10% off. It's just full credit unless you wait a month to do it. So penalties might be waived at my discretion if you talk to me about it, preferably before the due date. Quizzes need to be submitted. How about we correct that? Submitted by the due date. Once they've been graded, you get a chance to redo it. We've already talked about that. However, if you didn't turn it in to begin with, I might give you a 0 on it and not allow you to retake it, because if you just blew it off or whatever. Now, I don't really tend to do that, but I reserve the right to do that. So attendance. Do I want you to come? Yeah. Am I going to take attendance? Yes. Is it mandatory? Do you lose credit for not showing up? No. That's why I make the videos. You're sick, or you need to run off to, Enid to pick up your brother, whatever, go ahead. Just watch the video as soon as possible and upload what we did that day. So there's no deduction for missed classes, but as a rule, students who attend classes and do not miss many days perform better in the course. Now the danger is that you miss a class, you watch the video, you go, hey, this is pretty cool. And the next time something comes up, you're more likely to skip the class, right? And then the next time comes up, you make a habit of missing the classes. And then watching the videos takes some discipline, right? It's just a screen with some professor droning on and on and on, and it's kind of boring. So, not that the class is boring, but watching this video is not the ideal way of doing it. So what happens is people get in a habit of skipping class. They also may not watch very many of the videos, and then they wonder why their grade is really bad because they're not able to do the homework. And you also do get grades for your daily stuff that you upload. So attend class as much as you can. There's something known as the AW policy. If you do not attend a class, if you do not participate in a class, and this isn't my rule, it's a campus rule, it's a federal rule actually, you will be withdrawn from the class for lack of attendance or participation if you do not come in the first week or two. Obviously, all y'all are here, so that's not a problem. Now, for the folks who are absent, I hope they're paying attention to this. So, always attend the first week of a class. Attend the rest of it too. But what happens if you get an AW on your transcript? Well, it shows everybody that you enrolled in it and that you didn't participate in it. And also, if you took any grants or somebody paid you to take the class, then they're going to come back and take it out of your pocket, right? Used to be that people could scam grant agencies by getting money to go to this college, and then they never actually attended, and then they moved to another state and get some more money. That doesn't work anymore. So Attendance and participation is required to avoid an AW. You're already here. That's not a problem for y'all. Just kind of a warning. You probably already have heard that from your other professors as well. So, expectations. I have expectations of you. You should have some expectations of me. What do I expect you to do? You need to have access to the internet and C++ development tools. Please check D2L and your email. Please attend classes. Please watch the videos from Miss Lectures. Please do take advantage of your book. Read it and use it. Keep up with the schedule and due dates. Should be plural. Please complete your assignments on time. If you don't complete one assignment on time, don't let that build up, into things being, further and further and further behind. Take care of the problem as soon as possible. This is real important. Communicate with me. I expect you to do that. If you have problems in the class, if you can't get a program done because you don't understand it, don't just not do it. Talk to me about it. Or if you're having to miss a bunch of class for whatever reason, talk to me about it. And ask for help when needed. Please feel free to bring your laptop. Please keep your personal communication devices silent. If it buzzes and you have to go take a phone call, yeah, whatever, that's fine. Please don't put anything on your screen that will distract somebody sitting behind you. I don't know why I've had people watching Twitch streams, in class, but I've had it, or people playing League of Legends. And then when I notice, I have to give them a stern look and maybe ask them to cut it out. The silliest cases when I had two people sitting in the back of the class with their portable PlayStations, handheld devices, playing Street Fighter 2 during the middle of the class. I don't think they were picking up a lot of what I said, and I had to go back there and tell them to knock it out. And that was embarrassing for me, and don't want to do that. Okay, so if the syllabus changes for some reason, I'll post the notification, I'll email the notification, and I'll mention it in class. And at that point, it's your responsibility. Am I going to change the syllabus? I doubt it. I've used the same syllabus for a long time, but, something needs to be changed, okay. I will grade homework within a week of submission. If the homework has errors, you will not receive full credit, but you can revise and resubmit to earn more points. Email queries. I try to answer things quickly, within 24 hours. However, there's a chance that I can miss email. You know how corporate email is. You usually get 700 messages a day. I would very carefully try to not miss any of y'all's email. But if you send me email, you may as well send me a text message as well saying, hey, I sent email about whatever, right? Maybe you wanted the official recording of the communication, so you wanted to do it by email. There's nothing wrong with texting me and telling me to go look at it, and I'll respond to it far more quickly than, But usually within 24 hours. Weekend email, and maybe I'm not checking my email until Monday. I probably am, but I commit to 24 hours for weekdays, but Monday on the weekends. Communication by text messages usually gets far more rapid responses. I won't write your programs for you, but I will look at what you've written and offer suggestions of further explanations. And I have office hours. If we go and look at the office hours, I think I already directed you to that page, but if I didn't, I'm sorry, I teach Java right before this, and sometimes what I tell some people, I think I've told everybody else. If you go to Content, start here, you'll see my office hours right there. Other things you'll see under the Content menu. Eventually, you're going to see a folder called Videos, a folder called Notes, and a folder called Homework. So when you need to watch a video, you know where to go, the Contents Homework folder. Doesn't have anything yet, but it will after tonight. Then, Homework, Videos, and Notes. After every class, there should be something new added to all three of those, unless we go, a class day without assigning homework. So under school information, we should see Rose important dates. This is just useful information, like if you need to drop something, when does enrollment begin for the next semester, that kind of stuff. This is all available on the website in various places. I just thought it'd be nice to put it all together. If you need to talk to me, but you can't make the office hours that are in my document, no problem. Just let me know, and let's set up an appointment maybe to meet on Friday. I don't normally come in on Friday, but hey, I certainly will to talk to you. Expectations of your instructor. I just laid a whole bunch of expectations on you. You can put some on me. I should provide clear instructions for the assignments, right? If you look at it and the assignment is not worded in such a way as you understand, talk to me about it. Send me a message. Say, I don't understand. I will clarify. And if I think that it needs clarifying for everybody, I'll post a notice about it, right? Because you probably aren't the only one with the questions. I will answer questions regarding the assignments, whether you ask in person, email, phone, or text messages. I should grade them and give you feedback for work. If I give you less than 100% on anything, I will always explain why in the feedback. I'm not just going to give you, a 70% and there's no reason given. But how can you learn from that? I will give you at least a week's notice of due assignments and 2 weeks notice of exams. Now, we already have the schedule set out, so the exam dates shouldn't change. But if they do, I should hopefully know two weeks in advance. If you can't make an exam date, then you'll just need to make an appointment, or you'll need to go to the testing center at the library and take it on your own. Post all assignments, notices, PowerPoints, and reading assignments. That's what I'm going to do so that you know where everything is. All right, academic integrity. I hate having to lecture about this, but I got to, just because it becomes a problem. The problem is that somebody copies somebody else's work, or two people turn in identical work. Sometimes it happens without the other person knowing it. Like, I'm stuck on something, and so I ask you, hey, can I look at your code? You go, well, I'll just mail it to you. I just have one little problem, and then I get your code. I submit it like it was mine. I put my name on it, I submit it. The professor's not going to notice. Yeah, the professor's going to notice. You're not going to even know that I voted it, and then you're going to get in trouble too, because it looks like y'all worked together on it. And that happens, and I feel really bad for the people whose homework was copied. So don't give your programs to the other students. Also, another problem is when you have multiple people living in the same apartment, using the same computer, and they all want to work on the homework together, right? Two people sitting at the computer. You got to write your own. And I'm pretty good at noticing when programs are identical. I'm also pretty good at noticing if they're identical, except you went in and changed the variable names, hoping that I wouldn't notice. The other thing that could happen is, maybe two of you get on the phone and take the quizzes, together. Don't do that. You're not going to learn from that. Or you ask somebody to print out their quiz and then you just enter the answer. You do not learn from that. The point of a class is not the grade, although you want a good grade. The point is to learn. That's probably why you're here, is because you want to learn the stuff. So you're cheating yourself if you cheat in that kind of fashion. The only little gray area is when you become a professional programmer, anytime you get stuck on something, you're going to Google it, Google for help. So say that, I ask you to write a Caesar cipher. And you can't follow my instructions. They don't seem to make much sense. So you Google Caesar cipher Python. Not that this is a Python class. And you go, hey, cool. Somebody's already got it all written out here. And so you just copy and you paste that and you submit it. Now, the problem with that is there's several problems. One is that you don't learn anything by copying and pasting. The other is that I'm going to notice that it looks very different than the code that you've been writing in the past. Because the people who answer stuff on Stack Overflow and who write tutorials, they have 20 years experience. They're writing at a level that's beyond us. So I will notice if it looks like you've copied something off the internet rather than writing it yourself. I may ask you to, explain it. I may ask you to rewrite it. It's probably going to be treated as academic dishonesty. So be careful when you take stuff from the internet. Make it your own, right? If you can't figure out how the print writer works in IO manip, I'm going to type something that's C related rather than Java. You just learn how to use it. You look at the example code and then you make your own, Just like if you're writing a paper, right? You don't just go and copy a paragraph from Wikipedia and paste it into your paper. Same thing with coding help. You're going to go to the internet for help. I encourage it. But don't just take what you see, copy and paste it. Instead, make it your own. Understand it so that if I asked you to sit down without any help and handwrite by pencil, that programming problem, the solution, you'd be able to do that. Whoops. I'll just bang the microphone around and deafen people listening to the video. That makes sense? I don't ask that often enough. I just tend to keep talking. Alrighty. So maybe you could get somebody's homework from, last semester. Well, I usually change the assignments up, so, that shouldn't be a problem. But don't do that. And there are places online where you can look up, specific classes and find coursework that people have submitted in the past. A big old collective cheating library. I haven't really found my work out there, but you might be able to find it. Don't do that. You don't learn anything by doing that. And if I notice that you've cheated, then bad stuff happens. Consequences of academic dishonesty. If I determine that you did not do your work, or that you let somebody else copy your work, or that you collaborated on the assignment, the least that will happen is that you'll get an F for the assignment. You may also fail the class. You may also be, evicted from college. So it applies to all collaborators on the incident. It applies to quizzes, exams, and homework. Oh, another cute way that I had found people cheating is on the exam. They were popping open their phone and chatting, something like that. Now my books are open. My exams are open book. Don't cheat. Just look it up in the book, right? And I haven't been saying, okay, everybody has to turn their phone off and put a pile up here to prevent cheating like that. But I hate having to wander around. Try to catch people doing that. Just don't do it. So the consequences are bad. If academic dishonesty has occurred, you're going to make an F on it. Also, it will be reported to the division dean and to the director of student conduct. Well, why are people making such a big deal out of it? Well, it used to happen is that you would have serial cheaters who would cheat in one class until they were caught, and then they would go, oh, I'm sorry, I'll never do it again. I was just under a lot of, and the teacher might go, okay, well, that's the first time. It's all right. And then they do the same thing in another class, and they do the same thing in another class. But now all the reports go into one place, and, so that you can't make a habit of doing that. All righty. Counseling. Changing topics. Why might you be tempted to cheat? Because you're under a great deal of stress. Well, a far better thing to do would be to seek out the free personal counseling that's available. Resolve emotional difficulties, improve personal skills, overcome the effects of trauma or grief. I've had people who had PTSD from, serving overseas. I had one student who was physically assaulted by an instructor at another college. Believe it or not, that sounds extreme. Yeah, it was extreme. And so they were a wreck in my class. I directed them to these people, and these people actually worked with the the other college to make sure that some justice was done. So you can go to that address, or you can call them, make a confidential appointment. I strongly recommend it. All right, used to be called the Office of Disabilities. Now it's called Student Access Services. But if you have needs above and beyond, you're dyslexic or whatever, you need extra time on exams, or you have difficulty typing, you need to sit on the front row, but there weren't any seats available. You need the option of bringing recording devices in. Any of that stuff, you go and talk to them. They'll fill out a form. You bring the form to me or whatever instructor, and they will bend over backwards, making things possible for you. Now, looks like there's two different sections here. This is just the free counseling one, again, worded differently. Mental health concerns or stressful events may lead to diminished academic performance or reduce your ability to participate. Yeah, so if stuff's going on, if you're finding it overwhelming, go ask for help. It's free. What do you got to lose? Student Success Center. And I really do, people would text me and say, I went through a divorce and I'm really messed up, and so I wasn't at class last week. Well, if you're at a state where things are affecting you that badly, you might want to go talk to somebody about it. So electronic communication, use your email. We've already talked about that. There's a bookstore, obviously. It's moved now that the building's been torn down, but we still have it. If you want to check out the student handbook, it's a long document. It's 70 pages long, but it's well worth reading. You'll know more than anybody else does about the way the school works. You can find out what, an AW means and what your grades mean and things like that. Yeah, it's kind of long, but scroll through it and see if there's any sections that interest you. There's a link to it there. Now, obviously, that information is available, on the website. It's just a link there, but it saves you the time from, having to hit the little search button. If you have problems logging into Campus Network, I have a URL there. Or you ask me, text me for help, and I'll send you the URL to your phone. Email assistance if you can't log in. D2L assistance if you can't log into D2L. There's a help desk form, and those guys are amazingly fast. I've had answers like in 5 minutes when I've asked them questions. Teachers use the same form that the students do, so they're good. All you do is you click on the link, you go there, you fill out a short form saying what's wrong, you give them your email address, your student ID, and your phone number, and if you want to talk to them by phone, you say, please contact me by phone. They'll call you up, and they'll get you going. All right, that's the end of the syllabus. And you say, thank goodness. Are there any questions? Questions or none? Nope. All righty. Let's actually get something going, just so that we can say that we wrote a program. Now, you know what we're going to do. We're going to do the Hello World program that people write in every language that they start learning. But we're going to step our way through it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to launch Visual Studio. Now, I happen to have it docked right here in the taskbar, so it's easy for me to find. You don't have that, so you're going to go to the search box. Click on the Windows, click on the search, and type in Visual, and then you'll see it. Now, when you install Visual Studio yourself, you're going to be installing a far newer version, 2017. However, this version is good for learning, and anything you write on it will work on your computers at home. It's not like the product has changed that much that you're not going to understand when you're sitting in front of your own computer. And it will be a little bit different for you Mac users if you're going to do it on your Mac. Of course, Mac users also have the option of running Windows software by, either dual booting or, running parallels, but I recommend using Xcode. Okay, so I launched Visual Studio. Now I'm going to do File, New Project. File, New Project. I want an empty project. There's a whole bunch of choices here. They're probably not all expanded out. You're going to choose Templates, C++, Empty Project. Yeah, you can choose one of the other ones, but if you choose something like Console Application or MFC Application or Win32, you're going to be getting a whole bunch of Microsoft-specific stuff that you don't want. We're not learning Microsoft C++. We're learning C++ that can be applicable to every computer. So we want the empty project. Now let's give it a better name than Project 3. I'm just going to call this one Lecture A. Notice where it is being stored. File that away in your brain. Why? Because when you upload your document, you're going to need to know where you stored it. Now there's other ways of finding it, as we'll see pretty soon. Then click OK. It churns away for a little bit. It creates what's known as a project. A project, go see what it looks like. See, there's my project folder. Inside it, I have a source code folder, and then there's also two files, a .sln, which stands for solution, and an SDF. I don't even remember what an SDF file is. And if you click in there, then there's some other files. Now, see, all of that got created, and we haven't even written a line of code. When you give me your program, when you upload it, you don't have to upload all that stuff. Just give me the .cpp and the .h files that you create. But like I said, you can also just zip up the entire folder and submit it that way as well. And we don't have any code yet. I need to find the Solution Explorer. I'm going to pretend that it's closed. It's probably already open on your machine, but if it's not, go to View, Solution Explorer. Yeah, that's a little... There we go. Then right-click on Source Files and do Add New Item. And I will pause in just a moment to make sure that everybody's caught together. Now you could leave the file name source.cpp, or you could also call that Lecture A. Now this one shouldn't have any spaces in it though. So don't put any spaces in that file name. Spaces are okay in a project name, but not the file name. Possible it would work, but it wouldn't work on every operating system, so don't do that. So I called my file name lecture.a.cpp. You could also leave it source.cpp. Now once you do that, you see this text editor here. When that text editor pops up, put your name, the date, and some comment. Alright, let me make sure that everybody's got it going. Get the text editor. I would like for everything you turn in to have a little comment block. Just put your name and the date and stuff like that. Make it your own. Put your own stamp on it. Now we have to include what I call boilerplate. This is stuff that we're going to be putting into every single program we write. Unlike Python, where you just started writing, there's a little bit of a framework that a C++ or a Java program has to have in order to run. For one thing, every C++ program needs a main method, a main function. So we're going to be adding one of those. But also, in order to print stuff and to read input from the keyboard, we need another component that we have to include. So do a hashed symbol, a shift 3, #, include, and an angle brace, the one above the comma, IO stream, and enclose angle. Also, on the next line, we're going to include the string class. So # include string, like that. If you're a C programmer, you may remember that all of these files had, these names had .h after them, string.h or whatever, but we're using the C++ version, so we're not putting the header extension there. We're going to add one more line of code, which is going to look cryptic at first, using namespace, whoops, can I type? Using namespace std, semicolon. Now notice some lines required a semicolon and some lines haven't. Anything that starts with a hash is not part of the C programming language, and you don't put a semicolon at the end of it. That's why we didn't do that. In Python, we didn't terminate every line with a semicolon, but get used to typing that semicolon now. There's a general rule of thumb, which is that you're going to put a semicolon on every line except, well, yeah, we'll get there, like this. Now we have to define our main method. Int main, parentheses in parentheses, and then an open curly brace and a closed curly brace. Now every single program you write is going to look a lot like this. So you could just copy this and save it to your desktop or save it somewhere as a file called boilerplate so that you can open it and copy and paste it. I'm probably going to wind up typing it every time that we do one of these in class because I can type pretty quickly. But maybe after a while when I get bored of that, I'm going to stick it away in the desktop. I think I already have it there so that I can pull up the boilerplate. Yeah, I don't have it there. Yeah, I do, right there, Yeah, and we'll see a couple more lines that I have in my boilerplate that we haven't added yet. Every function needs a return statement, at least if it's got a type in. So we're going to put return 0. But let's make it say something before it does that. So I'm going to see out less than, howdy, exclamation mark, \n. That's the backslash. That's the one above the enter key, not the one under the question mark. \n, end quote, semicolon. All right, now I'm going to build my project. Build, rebuild solution. Down here it says show output from build. If I push this up, I'd probably see some messages. 1 succeeded, 0 failed, 0 skipped. Now what if I had a syntax error? That's plausible. Like what if I put a semicolon here where I didn't need one? Is that going to be a syntax error? Let's find out. Build, rebuild solution. It says missing function header. It gives me an error message. It's one that I might not understand. Missing function header, old dial formal. I don't know what that means, but it tells me what line number it's on. If I double click on the error message, it takes me straight to it, right? And it underlines it. And then you could stare at that all day going, I don't see anything wrong with that. What's wrong? Well, the problem is quite often on the line above it. And in this case, it's that semicolon. So to pop open an error list, you see this thing called error list here. And you can double click on the error and you go and fix it. Just fix one or two things. Don't go nuts fixing 100 error messages, because quite often only the first one is accurate and the rest of them are all, kind of cascading waterfall effects from the first one. So fix one and then try to rebuild it. Okay, so if I click the green arrow to run it in the debugger, boom, it did something. We're not getting a chance to see what it's doing. Now, you Mac users, when you write this stuff at home, you're not going to add this line. Won't work on your system. But on Windows, it does. We're going to do system, parentheses, double quote, pause, end quote, end parentheses, semicolon. What this is doing is it's executing a Windows program called pause. There is no pause command on a Mac. That's why you're not going to put this line on the Mac. But on the Mac, the window doesn't close as soon as you run it. So if I launch a command window just by hitting Windows sign R and typing a CMDR and getting a hold of this. Now if I type pause, that's what it says. Press any key to continue. That's what I'm going to see when I run this. I'll press the green arrow again. It recompiles it. It says, howdy, press any key to continue. That's what the pause did. It keeps the window from closing instantly as soon as it's done, which is what it was doing before. So pretty much this is your boilerplate from there to there. This is the stuff that we're going to wind up retyping every single time we write a program in class. That's why I recommend, saving it to a notepad file or something. I'm going to do Control C, or excuse me, I'm going to highlight it all, right click, copy it. I'm going to come over here, run Notepad, paste it, and do File, Save As, and save it to my desktop. Call it boilerplate. You don't have to do that. Just know that you can. All right, so this is what in effect is known as a Hello World application. Usually people actually put the word Hello World in there. Is anybody getting syntax errors that you need help eyeballing? Alrighty. Need to record the recorder. Resume the recorder. So I want to take a screenshot of it. What I'm going to do is if I just hit print screen, it'd take a picture of everything. But what if I only want a specific window, like I run this? That's the only one I need. So I'm going to hit Alt print screen. Print screen's up next to the F12 key on this keyboard. Alt print screen, and then click on the title, and it takes a picture of that window. Now we don't see anything. We don't. Maybe we'd hear a click sound if I had the speakers enabled or something. I don't think so. But I have it in memory. I can now launch Word or Paint and paste it in there. I'm going to launch Paint. And then I'm going to paste. I can just click the paste button. And there's my window. There's my, my screenshot. So give it a good name. So do a save or a save as. It doesn't really matter which type. PNG is a perfectly good one. And then call it, lecture A, and put your name on it. And click save. And that's actually going to be what we upload today. You can also give me the .cpp file. But I really want you to know the screenshot process. I'll walk through that again. I'm going to hit Alt print screen. I'm going to click on the title bar of the window that I want. I'm going to open Word or Paint. WordPad would probably work too. I'm going to paste. In this case, I just hit Control V as in vehicle to paste. And there, I have something nice to go ahead and do a save as. Call it Lecture A. Put my name on it. And save it. Okay, we're getting close to the end of the class. Let me make a Dropbox for this, and I will also mention the homework. And if you didn't get the program done, you can still take a screenshot, but I'll leave the code on the screen after we're done. When we're done with the lecture, so you can do that. All right. Click on the assignments link at D2L. You'll see our new folder called Hello World Screenshot. And you'll want to submit your document there. I'd also kind of like to see the CPP file. My voice is going. How can you find the CPP file? Well, if you remember where you say where your projects are created, that's great. If not, in Visual Studio, if you click in the Solution Explorer, you right-click on the top line and do Open Folder in File Explorer, you'll see your CPP file. Well, you'll see the folders. So go to Solution Explorer, right-click, choose Open Folder in File Explorer, and then find your project folder. It has the same name as your project. Just double-click there and you'll see your CPP file. You might make a copy and paste it on the desktop, or just leave that window open, because now I'm going to go submit my stuff. Now that I have this folder open, it's easy. Let me switch into student mode. So assignments, I'm going to click on the folder name. Where it says Add File, I'm going to click Add File. I'm going to click on my computer, and I'm going to click Upload, and I'm going to go get my document that I made, my screenshot. But I would also like to put my CPP file in it. Since I don't remember where it is, I'm just going to go to the folder that I found it in and drag and drop lecture-a.cpp. Pull it up in there. There. Now I have two files. I can click Add. This is just like doing an email attachment, right? Just because you attached it doesn't mean that it's actually done. You have to attach it and send. So instead we're going to do Add, and then we're going to do Submit. When you get this screen, File Submission Successful, it should show you that you've uploaded two documents.
You said you didn't mind if we just sent the whole project.
Right, right. You can zip the whole project. That's totally cool. Totally cool. All right. So there's also going to be a homework assignment. What's the homework assignment? It's to launch Visual Studio and take a picture of it, right? Or install Xcode and take a picture of it. Yeah. Whatever your C++ development tool of choice is going to be. And since 3 of y'all are Mac users, I will upload a document showing you a tutorial how to create your first C++ project. Everybody else, just make another Hello World app like this one, right? Just, you know, you could even open that, you know, whatever. You don't even have to create a program. Just launch Visual Studio and take a screenshot and upload that. That's going to be the only time that you do homework that I don't require you to actually give me a CPP file. So I'll create that a little bit later tonight. Let me bring the code back because I know some people didn't get a chance to type it in. Are there any questions?